Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile, and this is the show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know exactly what to do. 5-star review on Spotify, like and subscribe on YouTube, like and subscribe on YouTube, and 5-star review and say something really nice about me and my incredible guest today. I have David Woodley. He's the president and chief revenue officer of Playmaker, as well as the former vice president of ad sales over at watchmojo.com. David, how you doing today, man?
Doing great. Wish the weather was a little bit nicer out, but I think we're kind of into winter finally.
I was going to say, dude, it's like the first time I saw snow all year. So, here we are recording on the 25th of January. You're going to give me that? I'm not going to be. I hate snow, but I'm not going to be that angry about it. It could be way worse. Remember that.
No, 100%. I mean, it's like I have a snowblower in the garage. I was talking to someone the other day, and I'm like, I don't think we're going to use it, which is nice, but also like it's fun to use it. It's fun to pull that out.
Yeah, exactly. You bought the thing, you might as well use it. But yeah, for the sake of this episode, we're going to go with no snow for the rest of the year. We'll see what happens. I'm going to cross my fingers. But outside of the snow, a lot of other stuff we get to talk about today. Obviously, David being, again, president of the Playmaker. I'm sure there's different entities
Playmaker
that are called.
HQ. There's a
Thank
lot
you.
of Playmakers out there. We're Playmaker HQ.
Okay, I want to make sure that we're 100%.
Yeah.
If you've been on Snapchat, you've probably seen some of the stuff they've done. You've worked with multiple athletes. You guys have multiple shows on Snapchat, which is really cool if you ever play around in the Discover feature. So a lot of cool stuff that you guys are doing. So I'm very excited to get into that. But again, you've been in ad sales for practically your whole career. You worked at The Onion, if anyone's familiar with those headlines that kind of look real, but like you kind of have to double take for a second. One of my favorite places on the internet, absolutely. And again, Watch Mojo as well as many others. But David, before we hop into all of that, your career, what you're doing, algorithms and the such, the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
I grew up in it. I mean, I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska. So neither my parents moved around all throughout life, and as did I. But grew up there, and for the first like 13 years, and like it was kind of right when like Nebraska wasn't good back then, right? It's an embarrassment now, but I mean, I was there like 94, 95, 97.
I was going to say, you were there for the titles, right?
Yeah, exactly. And my mom grew up in a family of 9, and they all like sports, and grandpa did, and my dad grew up a big sports fan as well as did his parents. And then I got hooked quickly. I mean, we would go to Kansas City every year. I mean, I think one of my first memories is I had to be like 4, maybe 3.5, 4. I went to like Kansas City to watch a Twins game, and we're big Minnesota fans because my dad grew up close to there. And then I was really hooked in '91. I was like 6.5. My dad took me to Game 7, the World Series, which is the last time a Minnesota sports team has been in a championship, much less won one. And that was like the Jack Morris like 1-0 game. And the night before we'd driven like halfway and stayed with some friends, and that was like when Kirby Puckett, who was like my hero growing up. I mean, not so much later on, but hero growing up, had the like the game of his life, right? Like Minnesota, like you're talking about like greatest moments of all time. And I thought I was really onto something when they won it in at 91, 6 years old, celebrating a championship. Surely there'll be more of these to come. And not so much. My brother was born in '92, and we always joke that
oh no,
he's the curse. He's the reason why they can't do anything. But no, I just loved it. Like loved all sports. I mean, we watched a ton of it, right? And then growing up back then, sort of dating myself, it's like you didn't have like MLB extra innings and stuff, right? Like we maybe saw the Twins, and they were kind of crappy back then. Like you maybe see them on TV like 3-4 times a year, right? So it was like a lot of like fun moments with my dad, like getting the newspaper, like going through the box score, right? Or like turning into ESPN, where like the bottom line like didn't exist. It would only pop up like at 29 and 29 and like 59 of the hour, and like you would rush there to turn it on, and like you sometimes like miss the Twin score. You have to wait like 30 minutes to see it. And then the last other moment of that too, that the very nostalgia feeling was we'd play, as fathers and sons do, we'd play a lot of catch, and we would we'd get some of the Twins games all the way in Nebraska, but like we had to use his work Bronco because it had like a pretty big antenna, and we'd always like listen to somebody. It would get like really crackly, and like around like 8 it would like lose power because that's I guess what AM stations do, and like you would like have to like go up and turn it up and like hear when like a big moment was happening. So just a lot of like really good memories of sports, and played all the sports watched an insane amount of them, and like really it was like kind of the only thing I really cared about, growing up and even into adulthood, college, getting jobs out in the world. Like, I have other tastes and I guess passion, but it's always been like sports, and everything, baseball, football. We used to go to the local dirt track racing things when I was young. So like I'm a huge fan of like all, I have the Formula One shirt on, but huge fan of like NASCAR, like all the series, all the dirt track series, sprint cars. I mean, it's people are like, do you have a sport you don't watch? And it used to be like soccer a long time, but now I'm like gotten more and more into that. And like I saw my dad up in Minnesota for the Vikings Giants game, which went terribly for me. Good for Giants fans.
Pretty good for you.
And and we were talking like there was another couple of people we went with. We were talking like soccer. My dad he's like, how do you watch soccer? I was like,
mornings on Saturdays, dude. It's perfect. I love morning sports. It's the best.
Yeah, and you're about to have a kid, so you'll be up early, and it's like Formula One and soccer. Like there it is. You're up with a baby, and gives you something to do. But no, it's always been just like a huge passion of mine.
I love it, man. Yeah, I think those stories. So I have kind of similar stories. So I'm a Mets fan, Giants fan. I'm sure people that have listened to the show are very familiar with that. But like, I've had the same kind of, you have to go to bed, okay, turn on the radio just low enough that I could listen to it, right? So I have similar stories like that. Like when growing up, it was just something. But yeah, now it's just kind of ridiculous. Like you don't have to wait for a paper. You don't have to wait for the 29th minute of the hour. Like now it's just everything's instantaneous. There was something about that kind of having to go like out and seek it, like having to find it. It gave you a little extra. I much prefer this, but there was something about having to like work to find out the score to a middle of July baseball game. I'm sure when the Twins are 20 games under 500 and you're still out there, you're still like, no, I really want to know what happened. Like there's something about that.
And to see a highlight too. I mean, that was it. We'd watch like baseball night and Sports Center. You'd like wait, and they would always like put it at the end of the show, and then like half the time it'd be like 20 like one thing that happened. It was like it could be like an 8 to 7. Like,
that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's like
here's
look at this catch.
A home run. Yeah, and they go, by the way, like Puckett had 2 home runs and Herbeck had a grand slam, but like here it is. And it's funny, but like you would get really pumped when it would like ever lead off, right? Or like you got like more than 20 seconds of it, and I think that's, again, it's something. It's gotten better. I mean, it's great. I mean, like now it's like, phone and watching, the Timberwolves, watching every single game, and like it's beautiful because in my kid, if he needs to watch something or whatever, he can do it too. But there is that kind of nostalgia feeling to it, and it was fun because I think you guys like us, like we grew up and like saw both sides of it, right? And like my kids will always be here and watch whatever you want and access to all this. But I think back then it was like you got exposed to local teams and all that, and like even being a Nebraska fan growing up, it was like you didn't get like a ton of other games. I feel like you maybe had like 5 to 6 a week, like a Saturday to watch. Maybe there was more, but it wasn't like, oh, you can watch every game. So you really only watched who Nebraska was playing, and then I feel like there'd be like a night game or whatever. And I don't think College Game Day was around when we first started watching either. So it's funny, and I don't know. It there's something cool about it, and it's like the evolution of sport. And, a lot of things get said about audiences, not younger generation not caring, blah blah blah. But it's not true. It sticks around, and there's just sort of different ways to consume it.
I was gonna say it's just different at this point, right? Like specifically speaking about the NBA, like obviously everyone knew Michael Jordan. Like pretty much everyone on planet Earth knew who Michael Jordan was at the time. But like it's really, as you said, it's like less about local teams now. Like I grew up here in New Jersey, so I was kind of a Nets fan growing up. I don't really care about basketball that much, but I'll watch LeBron. Like I'll watch like these. I don't like the Celtics, but I'll watch them because they're star-studded kind of thing, right? And like I think that's what's really interesting, specifically about kind of what you guys do at Playmaker. So maybe we'll like Quentin Tarantino this around a little bit, but like the fact that basketball specifically, and now football, we're starting to see it a lot with like quarterbacks, like very much with quarterbacks is. It's less. I don't want to say it's less about the team. Basketball, I think it is 100% less about the team. But like, you're starting to see kids, especially, and even people my age. I just turned 31. I turned 32 this year. Like, I'm more worried about what the stars are doing in basketball, aside from what the actual teams are doing. Like, I don't care about the Cavaliers, but LeBron was on the Cavaliers. Like, okay, now Donovan Mitchell's there. Like, I'll see what Donovan Mitchell's up to. He's pretty cool. His dad's, used to play for the Mets or whatever the hell it is. That's always a fun one, right? So what have you kind of seen specifically on that front where, like, as you said, you had local teams and that was kind of it back then. Now you're looking at it where the internet is abundant. You can get anything anywhere at any time. How are you guys creating that type of content? And I guess maybe I should have asked a bunch of other questions before we got here, but whatever. How are you guys really making sure that you're leaning into that aspect of, you know, that kind of that star-studded mentality, and people care way more about who is on the Knicks than the actual Knicks themselves?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the NBA, and by design, right? It always kind of was a star-driven league, but not as much as it is now. And like, the NBA also really embraced social media early on, and well, and like, they weren't trying to like, take down copyright claims against every YouTuber.
Yes.
Like they're not going to like make money on those highlights, but they're not going to like jam you up and be, because they understood the value of that early on, right? I think they were great on, I feel like Twitter early on and all the platforms. So yeah, I mean, it's been always going that way, and I think the other leagues trying to like figure out how to get there, and like baseball's trying to. I mean, but for us, honestly, it's listening to our audience, and it's like the people creating the content for our audience, which is very much like 18 to 29. Um, they are 18 to 29, like they're kind of on the younger end of that. So like they're the ones that are like watching this, consuming this, in all this as well. And it's staying on top of trends. I mean, it's crazy. Like I'm gonna bounce around a little bit all over the place here, but it's like just the way we work. It's all done via like text, right? Like we do some Slack. We're kind of moving there now. We're up to 60 people, but it's like text, and it's like a million different chains, a million different group texts. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's how we're catching all this stuff, right? And like everyone, you get people that are like really passionate about it, they're doing it. Like we pull in people that have built up sort of their own micro communities themselves, but they're passionate about it. And I think for us, it's staying on top of all those trends, like staying on top of like who is moving the needle, like who isn't. And I think as for a sports fan, it's great. And like again, I'm a Timberwolves fan, right? They're terrible. They're always terrible. But I was able to stay engaged with NBA over the years. You obviously would watch like Durant and Cat, but again, you're talking about a team that was like not making the playoffs and like what they would get smoked. You stay engaged because of the LeBron stuff, right? Like, are you going to root for them? Are you going to root for the big three? Are you going to root for them to get taken down? Like the Cavs versus Warriors, right? Like David versus Goliath stuff. And you always had those personalities that like you're flipping through. Oh, okay, I'll watch this. It's LeBron, or I'll watch this. It's Durant. I think it's Durant, or I meant Kevin Garnett. But
Okay.
you're like, hey, and it's interesting, right? And, like the storylines and like the kind of fake rivalries and stuff. And again, I think we tackle this in a good way. Like we have snapshots built around that stuff. We have one like athlete luxuries that talks about, not just like, oh, here's LeBron's mansion. It's like, there's a whole episode there on like LeBron's watches, right? And like these players have become more accessible as well because they've learned like their own brand and putting it out there and everything. And we have like a series, Got Beef, that, it explores kind of the rivalries of, sports and all that as well. And we have a series called like This Day in Sports, which it's not even that much about like what goes on, like Steph hit a game-winning three last night. It's not really covering that. It's just like covering sort of like the sort of culture and stories like around sports. And I think it's interesting, right? And I think we've been able to do a good job where it's like, yeah, we'll still recap stuff like it's going on, but I think there's more of a conversation about like what is coming next, and then sort of like all these like the internal debates that people have. I mean, one of the things we are doing more and more of is like ranking our like top 10 of all time, and we're taking like our spin on it. We're asking like our audience and stuff, and it's funny, and it's like, you ask someone, I'm a few years older than you, but you ask someone like my age or older, or probably split between us, who's the best ever. It's like a lot of people, Jordan, right, and like Kobe's right there, and it's like a lot of it now is, it's LeBron number one, it's Jordan number two, but then it's like a lot of the older players kind of get like shuffled down because I think people are getting kind of smarter about, how it is. It's like, Steph Curry could dominate any era, right? Durant would dominate any era. And then you're like, would Jordan dominate right now? Probably, but like he also wasn't shooting the three. Like, could he have learned? Maybe. But it's such a different game now. It's evolving, and I think we try to like really champion that, right? Versus getting caught in the, oh, it was like better back in the day, or it was like better in my day, because when you have a younger audience, they don't care, right? It's like me
Yeah.
caring about, my grandma like talking about like the '56 Cubs, like whatever, like
Sorry,
like,
Grandma.
like
They didn't win the
they
World
didn't have
Series
like,
either. Like, it doesn't matter.
yeah, I mean, yeah, no, exactly. So it's just staying on top of the trends and really listening to the audience. And I mean, we go in there in the comments, we listen to them, and we cover players they want to hear about. And we typically know what's going to do well, but like we don't always know what's going to do well either. You know, it's like LeBron could be a hot topic for us one day, and the next day like ice cold, and then it's always evolving. And I think that's like the fascinating thing about social media and networks and you know, just younger generation having so much more access to information than anyone ever had before. And like, you know, now they're growing up with these. They know how to like Google search that you can like find stats like this, which is like something that hadn't been available until relatively recently. Or like if you're a baseball nerd like myself, like 15 years ago.
Baseball Reference is the greatest thing on planet Earth. Like it is.
Sean Foreman's great. Good dude.
Dude, I don't know him. If you know him, love an introduction. Shout out Sean if you're listening to the show. But no, Baseball Reference is one of the coolest places to hang out, right? Like I'll just like go up and just like sometimes, you know, it's like it's the middle of July. There's only so much stuff going on. My cousin and I he's a big Yankees fan, I'm a big Mets fan. We're always hanging out, and it's just like, I don't know, what do you think Barry Bonds hit in like 1999? It's like, I don't know, let's look it up. And then you just dive down the hole of like, this guy's the greatest player of all time. I don't care if he used steroids because everyone else was using them too, and he was that much better than everybody. I don't give a shit. Like, put this guy in the Hall of Fame. We just had the Hall of Fame the other day, right? And they still didn't get him in. But like, it's things like that where now, as you said, it's so easy. And you're right. I think especially in a sport like basketball, it's like bigger, stronger, faster. 9 times out of 10 is going to win. Like, yeah, Michael Jordan was incredible. He put basketball on the map. He did everything. Never going to take that away from him. But like people he was playing against were like literally mechanics in the offseason. Like it's always just so funny to me. And I don't want to have that debate. I'm not here to do that. But it was always just very funny to me that like you could say that to someone and they could be like, I don't care. It's like, well, I think it's kind of important. Like I don't give a shit about this argument, but I think it's kind of important. And the fact that, you know, you said something like you read the comments. Shout out first you guys for the comment section of any video ever is just the worst place on planet Earth. So like shout out you guys for surviving that and you having your mentals about you on a daily basis. But like listening to your audience is a much easier said thing than done, right? Like it's so easy for people to say all this stuff and then not do it or not care. Like how are you guys actually able to sift through what is just bullshit and what is like, oh, actually, yeah, that's kind of cool. That's a good idea. Or yeah, I do kind of want to know what, you know, Kyle Korver did with his last $1 million. Like, how do you guys know what's actually useful and what's not from the comments?
It's just you have people that like live it, that you know, eat it, breathe it, sleep it, all of the above.
That
they're
sounds
like
terrible.
doing that themselves. They're finding this. Yeah, they're finding this content elsewhere, right? And like I think the really fun thing about sports in general is like it opens itself up for debate and like ridiculous debate, but it's like the stakes are so low that like you can get really passionate about something, like really like mess with friends and stuff, and it never like impacts a friendship, right? I mean, like try doing that with like politics or news or educate, like anything, right? Where there's like actual like stakes at the end of the day, other than you know, will this team win or lose, or maybe you win a bet or not. And so I think that's like part of it, right? And like you can get people disagreeing, but it's like they're used to it. And it's almost like it almost sets itself up for that anyways. Like TV, which is still relevant, but you know, I mean, it's look at who they have on like TV talking about sports. Now it's just like, now it's all like the same stuff, like B Skip Bayless, B Stephen A. Smith, like B, you know, it's been going on for a while and it's like funny, but it's like, if you can actually go like one level below that, where it's like a little less ridiculous, it becomes like insanely civil. Even if you're, you know, you're making proclamations sometimes that you know are going to get feedback, but like people are respectful. I don't know. And like, it's a young, you know, it's a young, diverse, like cool audience. And yeah, we get trolls and people from time to time, sure. But like, you've been able to like develop this, and it's kind of fascinating to watch. And there's like some self-policing going on and like more serious convos. And that's it. We listen to them. And again, I think it just comes down to the team we have creating the content, which are like really good trendsetters in their own right.
I love it. And I just did some quick math here. I feel like you're 6-ish years older than me, because if you were 6 in 1991, that's when I was born.
Yeah.
Figured it out. So you're not even really in your target demographic. How do you kind of view yourself? And like, do you have that type of mindset when it comes to content? Is this just something that you understand so you can kind of not like watch over, quote unquote, I guess? I don't really know the best way to like say that, but like, how do you kind of view yourself being, you know, as you said, 18 to 29? Well, you're like 9-10 years removed from your target demographic. How do you then kind of take what you know and still be able to apply it and still be able to make sure that the content's coming out is something that you can then sell against?
Yeah, I mean, the truth on it is like, I don't really give a lot of suggestions in terms of content. Like I'll throw stuff out there, but it's like, it's not much. I mean, because
Hmm.
it's like I almost like joke. I'll be like, hey, like this I find this interesting, but like the audience may not, and like sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Um, so it's like, but for me, a lot of it is like knowing kind of what the market wants, right? Like knowing like what is brand safe, what isn't brand safe, like kind of knowing what metrics will look like, and like maybe if something isn't like a new series isn't taken off right away, like knowing, oh hey guys, like we can keep going because like it does take time sometimes, right, to like build IP, or like there is something to potentially switch here instead of being like, oh the idea sucks. It's like no, I've seen this before, different companies, things like that. Like, let's try to go and like switch something. I mean, I think a good example of that. I'm not going to take credit for the switch, but was one of our, I think, most popular Snap shows called This Day in Sports. Like originally it was like my idea, and it was not a great idea looking back, but it was like, hey, we're gonna look back in what happened on January 25th across the history of sports. Snap was like, yeah, we don't think it's gonna work, and then we were like, oh, let's just talk about the three things that are gonna go on today or this week. Like, yeah, it's probably not gonna work. We tried it, bombed, and then we kind of sat around, talked to Snap, and kind of game plan. We're like, hey, why don't we like try something that's just talking about like the stories, right? It's called This Day in Sports, but maybe it's like not this day. It's like the last 3 days. It's just like these trending stories, right? Like anytime Conor McGregor does something, um, it's a story. Like he calls someone out, like Jake Paul calls someone out. Like if there's like a LeBron beef, like that's it. And I think it's that. I think it's just being like, hey, we can build this. Things don't always have to crush from the beginning. I'm an advisor over like Blue Wire Pods too, and I met them. I produced a podcast in the sports bar I own with the Detroit Lions beat writer, and I remember like going through that process and listening to your podcast. You know how it is. It takes time to build something. It's not always going to be a hit from day one, and I think I'm able to like provide a bit of that sort of, I don't want to say like calming voice from time to time, but I think like our senior management team can do that, even though I'm like probably the oldest one in the company, and they're closer to the demo. But again, like they're not, the rest of the crew, like it's all the younger folks. So it's like helping them, guide them where they can, and then like letting them know like I think we're really good at being like failure is fine. Like having a piece of content that doesn't work, it's fine. Like you learn from it, you move on, instead of like creating a culture where you're afraid if things aren't like taken off. And I think we've been good on that. We can talk about like the longer view and that, and then also on the brand side, it's just kind of again, it's talking to advertisers, partners, stuff like that. I'm more focused on like the betting partnerships now and stuff, but like
Hmm.
listening to what they want to see, taking it back to our team and figuring out, okay, like that's not necessarily going to work with our audience. This works with the audience, but like let's come together and like find that sort of middle ground, where if we are doing some sponsored or branded, it is pretty close to like what we would do normally. And then it's like, hey, why don't you like sponsor some of our normal stuff? We'll make sure it's brand safe. We'll make sure it hits these specific targets you want to hit, and then go from there. So I think it's just kind of providing a long way of saying just like providing like some experience into the fold, and learning too. You're always learning. And I'm learning. I try to dive into the content quite a bit as well and like learn what is working, so then that any sort of suggestions I have on the content do make more sense the next time.
That totally makes sense. Again, like kind of as you said, almost like a calming voice. I think that's that actually totally makes sense from that standpoint of like, hey, like let's just wait a second. We can get through this because I mean, younger people. Like I remember when I was 22, 23, 24, it was like this didn't work. Fuck it, I'm out. Let's change it. Let's do
Yep.
something else. Like it's so easy to do that when you're a little younger. And now, hey, I'm 31. Like I'm only 6 years removed from that, but at least I have the awareness that happened. So that way I can be like, wait a second, take a deep breath, let's have a conversation about this. We don't have to get angry and leave. Like, let's actually just kind of, hey, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But there's a way that we can kind of get there. And as you said, you guys work with Snap, you're working with brands. You're like first, I guess, what is, give me the definition. I don't know. What is like Playmaker HQ? Like, what is that brand? Like, what are we looking at there when you say Playmaker HQ brand? Like, you have multiple of these stories, you have multiple of these like different shows on Snapchat and obviously in other places
Hmm.
as well. Like, what is that overarching brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think even back in Nibble and a step further, like Playmakers, the company, we have like the Playmaker HQ handles. Like we think that we are now like Playmaker, and like most people now know us as Playmaker. But again, there's a lot of others out there, and we're not trying to like get in any turf wars or anything like that. We tried to buy the Playmaker.com handle a few times. It's like an old computer game thing, but the guy wants too much, but
Mm.
it looks like it's from like 1998. But I digress. No, I mean Playmaker HQ. I mean it's media and management company, sports media management company. Again geared towards like whatever buzzword you want to use, like Gen Z or millennial, like somewhere in between. They're 18 to 29, and the brand is it's fun, it's informative, it's entertaining, it's positive mostly. Like we don't really punch down on anything. Like yeah, we'll like make a joke about Westbrook missing like 10 threes, but it's never like punching down
Mm-hmm.
in a way, right? It's kind of like hopping on the trend. So it's like mostly positive, inspiring, that sort of stuff, but like also being like really fun and like goofy and like realizing kind of that it's not the end of the world, that none of this stuff is like that serious. So like the Playmaker brand, we there's a lot of like, so we have a bunch of different brands, right? So like the Playmaker brand, a lot of hoops. The company's kind of founded on that. Hoop culture is like number one, like basketball's our number one sport. So if you go to Playmaker, you'll see a lot of that. Very basketball heavy. We cover some other sports on there as well, but then like on Instagram we'll have like the @sports handle, and like that's where you'll start seeing like more other sports filtering in, like football, MMA, all the way down the list.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have like @Playmaker TD, which is exclusively football, and we have @Playmaker Hoops, which I think is our second biggest handle, and that's all basketball, right? And some crossover here and there, but for the most part, that we have like a baseball channel, betting channel, and then Snap's a little bit different because the way Snap works is each show is its kind of own brand, right? So you could be watching a Playmaker show, it's still branded somewhat Playmaker, but like you wouldn't necessarily like equate it with us, right? So it's every show is its
Oh,
own
no.
own thing. Did I lose you?
Yeah, you did. The way Snap works was the last thing I heard, so if you don't mind starting back there.
Oh yeah, okay. One of us is frozen. Sorry to make you edit that.
Worst thing, not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean the way Snap works is like on the Discover platform, each show is it's basically its own audience and it goes find it. So I mean we have 35 shows on there, but like most people like don't realize that, right? And like not every show is called Playmaker. So Snap's a little bit different. Like, our This Day in Sports is more about the stories going on. It's like at luxuries about the luxuries. We have like This Day in Culture about culture. We have like shows about music, love and sports, and just a lot there. So Snap's its own thing. So we're basically representing like 35 different sub brands under the Playmaker umbrella. But again, like they fit together. But if you're on Snap, you don't necessarily like know that. And so that is a bit different. And then yeah,
You said there's
just
a team of only 60 of you are handling this many brands. That's incredible.
yeah. I mean,
right?
yeah, I mean, I started. I think I invested in these guys like in January of 2021. I think there's like 7 employees, so we've gone from 7 to 65, I think, right now. And there weren't as many brands. There definitely wasn't as many Snap shows back then, but it's grown very organically. And I think the only way you're going to cover all those brands is you get people that are extremely passionate about the brands and passionate about the space, want to grow within the company, or want to, they have their own goals, right, to get into sports and stuff. And like I always say, like I really wish that like I would have found like this company when I was like straight out of school, because it'd be like a dream job for every reason under the sun. And this isn't like some big recruiting spiel. It's just like the atmosphere that's been created. And like at the end of the day, you get passionate people talking about sports and things they like. Like it's not work at that point. It's just like something they would probably be doing anyways in a boring job. They'd be on like social media, like giving their sports takes, but like, hey, like now it's your job, and now you're getting paid to do this. And I think that's it. I mean, it's a 60 is a big number, but I think when you compare us to some other companies out there, it's like I think we're doing more with 60 than other companies are doing with like 200.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I mean. Like that's such an incredible way that you guys are able to optimize the amount of content that you're putting out there, and it's not all just kind of repurposed. It's all it's unique to each of the sub brands, as you said, which I think is the most important part. I'm sure there's a little bit of crossover from hoops here to hoops there, but at the same time, as you said, those 35 different Snapchat shows just on its own just sounds just like an astronomical number. And those are, I assume, 5 days a week, 3 days a week, something along the lines of enough times that it's not like it's just a once every couple times a week thing. Like it's out there and you guys are creating that content. So shout out to you and the team, man. Like that sounds like a lot of work. So kudos and congratulations. And as you said, do what you love. You'll never work a day in your life. So why not, right?
Yeah, something like that,
Something
and
like that.
no, and and a lot of the talent is like we promote from within a lot, and like we don't lose anybody either. So it's like it's interesting. And they all stick around, but that's great too, right? You're not constantly like backfilling like new hires and getting them up to speed with the brand. And like when we do hire someone new, like they're brought up to speed like really quickly. And I think one of the things that helps as well is like we just onboarded this new creator last week, and we're having to do some betting content. And she was asking like, hey, what do I do? Like, what do you want me to do? And all this. And like, here's like some show ideas, but like, what we really want you to do is like, you've already built your own channel, like, what you're doing, like really like bring what you're doing well there and like do that here. And like, we'll give a couple like small pivots to like make sure there's like a betting angle included in it, but like, don't try to like be something
be authentic
for everyone else. You have to be authentic, and especially with like this audience in sports where it's so freaking competitive, if you're not authentic, like you'll lose people within like 2 seconds, right? So like you have to be unique, you have to be authentic, and stick with it. It's like
it just makes it more incredible that like people watch Skip Bayless because like he's very clearly inauthentic, and like I just don't understand how he gets away with it. But whatever, shout out to him. He's the one making $10 million a year, not me. Maybe one day, though, David. Maybe one.
He's kind of like a parody of himself. He's like
that's what I mean. It's like it's a joke, but like we know it's a joke. So why do we care what he says? It's just very confusing to me.
Like the Dak throwing the Dak one away. It's like everyone's like, "Oh my god, look at that!" You can hear when the wife taps the table, and like you can see him in the doorway. I'm like, he's doing that on purpose. Like he knows it's like he knows what he's doing, and it's like the funny thing is like people still take it at face value, which is ridiculous to me. But like then you have the other people that like don't take it at face value, and you're like, that's actually pretty funny. Like you're just like,
oh yeah, exactly.
It's hilarious.
I do agree with you. It's practically a parody at this point, which is again, shout out to him. He's the one making the millions of dollars, not me. I'm doing all right for myself, but not quite there yet. But so I guess so that's a lot on the content side, and I'm sure I could keep asking you questions and asking you questions and asking you questions, but you have like a life to live. So I am very also curious on the ad sales side, right? Like you guys have to make money. You're 60 people. I'm sure you need to have some sort. You're the chief revenue officer. This is the perfect person to ask a question about, right? Like, how do you guys generate revenue? Obviously, there's ad sales. Obviously, there's partnerships. Now you guys are getting into the betting space. We'll talk about that in a little bit. More so, I guess, like, I'm kind of curious. Like, I know you can get monetized on TikTok. Shout out to my upstairs neighbor doing his thing, playing Fortnite. Like, I know you can get monetized on Instagram. I don't really know anything about Snapchat, though. If you guys have 35 Snapchat stories, I'm sure it's not like, hey, you guys make all this shit and like, thanks. Like, I'm sure there's something there. So I guess if you could give us a little insight there, because I don't think too many people understand kind of how the Snapchat ecosystem works, and then we can kind of dive into like the partnerships and the ads and like the branded content, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Snap's great. I mean, they're they're like our biggest partners. So like we're obviously
35 shows.
Say well, talk well about them, but no, it's a great platform. I mean, Snap. There's like Snap as a user, right? And like you can send a friend, you can do your stuff, but like Snap Discover is like kind of their official partner platform, right? Like where if you go to like the Discover feed, like you'll see these shows. It's rigorous to get on there to begin with. And actually the reason why I invested in these guys a year and a half ago is because they had gotten a Snap show. They got the Road to the Fight with Nate Robinson where he fought Logan Paul. And it did well, and I was like, oh man, these guys are on to something good. Like, they just got to get a few more Snap shows, and then the company's gonna go whoop. You get on Snap, you become a partner, and you pitch them, and if you do well, like you get more shows and all that. But the beauty there is, you create a show, they put it out to a certain number of people, and if those people like it, the algorithm kind of likes it, and it goes up, and then they sell the ads like programmatically against it, and they do a revenue split with the partner. So it's great as like a publishing partner and all that, because it'd be great to be able to like go sell ads into those, but they're handling it, and I think it's very similar. It's different, but similar to like YouTube, right? Like the rise of the YouTubers, the beauty there is like all you had to do was find the audience and like get that, and then like YouTube would go sell the ads. It's kind of similar to that. So I mean, Snap, it's great. They're partners, like they're great partners like that. Like TikTok monetization, they're rolling out for creators. They haven't rolled out for publishers yet, but we're very excited about that. Facebook, you get some money like Instagram. Facebook and Instagram are always kind of like changing monetization and stuff. So that we're more focused on like bringing in sponsors directly on that. And then Twitter, we haven't been monetized long on Twitter, but it's been doing well. Like our video, like we make decent money on Twitter. So I think it's cool, because if you are a upcoming creator, publisher, want to create a company, it doesn't have to be like, okay, we have to go hire someone to go sell these ads to Pepsi tomorrow. It's like you can work with these platforms, build up a nice base, make some money that way, and then tackle the direct sales and stuff the other way. So we're getting into direct sales more and more. We have the betting division, which we'll cover. And then we also we have a talent division. I don't think I mentioned, but we represent probably like 50 talent, like a lot of ex-NBA guys, current NBA guys, current NFL guys, like influencers. So we're able to like bring them deals. We just brought a deal, Jalen Wilson, who's the Kansas player, like with Raising Cane's. I think we shot that like
Love it.
yesterday. We're always doing stuff. We did something with Casey K and then Colleen Wolf the other day around like a Pepsi. I think it was Pepsi. Stuff. So we're selling talent deals, and then we have like a merch, an e-com business. We got into the card game, sort of like doing box breaks on cards. And then we throw events, and then I'm sure there's like 3 other things. But we're trying to make revenue as many places as possible, and I think that's like what is nice, right? Is when you can consistently grow like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 revenue line items. That's what good companies do. I mean, I'm not. It's why like a Google, they have like a million different revenue generators,
Streams
right?
of income.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need
Exactly.
those, and it's like, yeah, and then we're able, if like something goes bad tomorrow or like whatever, if like it would never happen, but if like Zuckerberg like pulled the plug and everything went down, like we would suck, but we would be okay. And I think that's I've learned that over the years at some of these companies as well that I worked at. It's like as long as you have like multiple revenue streams, as long as you're also hopping on new trends and trying new things out all the time, like you have a much greater chance to have a great company versus if you're just kind of fingers crossed.
I think that makes a lot of sense, especially like because you don't want to put all your eggs into the Facebook basket or the YouTube basket. Right before we hopped on, I've had YouTube creators on the show, and they've always told me kind of like, oh my gosh, like the algorithm's changing. I don't know how much money I'm going to make. Like I don't know what this is going to be. I don't know what that's going to be. And like that's because they have one stream of income. And as you said, you're doing multiple things: the talent division, the content, the ads supported, the brand partnerships. Then you kept going and going and going, and I apologize, I don't remember all of them. But at what point is it too much, right? Like you obviously don't want to spread yourself too thin. It's 60 people. You named at least 10 different streams of income. Multiple of these people are working on creating the content, which is kind of the sole purpose of the company, I guess. Like at what point do you kind of take a step back and or like are you evaluating along the way? Are you kind of one of those like we got to fail fast and frig it if it doesn't work we do something else? Like how are you kind of from that aspect? Because yeah, you named 10 different ways that you guys are making money, and that's awesome. But if it's taking away from like the core principle of the business, which is to make kick-ass content, that's where most of the money comes from, I'm assuming. Like, doesn't that kind of drain away a little bit, or is it sucks now but it'll be better later kind of thing? What's your philosophy on that?
It's always a balancing act, right? And like the thing
Of
is,
course.
the majority of the people at our company are just creating content. They're not worried about the revenue, right? It's just like we're like, go create the content, we'll figure out, and then like licensing, I don't know, we just got into, so that's not wrong. But then yeah, and then it's figuring out like who oversees what, right? And always like moving things along. Like we've done, like we'll heavy up in e-com sometimes, then we'll like scale it down where it's like the CEO is like handling e-com for a while. Then it'll like we'll get to the point where we'll go hire someone else and bring them in. But like e-com's a pretty small, self-sufficient department. It's like, how do we make more money in this? Oh, we're gonna get into like the card breaking game. This is fun. We'll have like Nate Robinson come on, like sign some stuff during it. Great, very self-contained. Licensing, it's there's like we're all kind of helping, but we're all kind of like doing a little bit here and there on it. And it's like, okay, like we're gonna get on these 5 platforms or whatever, and like it's gonna make us money. Like we're gonna automate it. Great, don't have to worry about it. Like talent, the guy that runs talent, Polo, it's like him. He has a little help there, but he's like going out and sending all these talent deals, right? It's that we are hiring up our direct sales team like as we speak. So it's like perfect example of that, right? Like we can tackle all this, but for us to do this in a bigger and better way, like we need to go like hire a couple people and like let them own it, trust them with it, build that up, and then it's like, yeah, then it's like everybody, it's like a lot of the company is focused on Snap, right? A lot of the company is focused on Instagram and like TikTok. Like that's where those big revenue streams are and all that as well. So it's trying a lot of things, it's killing things when it doesn't go well, but also growing things kind of methodically as well. And like events, like you're kind of crazy if you want to like get into the events business, right? Especially like if you have all these other nice things, but events has always been like a passion point for our founder Brandon, and we've always kind of looked at events too and like a way to like grow the brand with the audience. And now we're doing like 6, 7, 8, 9 events throughout the year, and we're never gonna be an events company, but when we're throwing these events, like whether it's a one-on-one basketball tournament or a dunk contest with like internet influencers, like it's cool. Like it is cool for the brand, and the sponsors like it, and we make money. And it's great. And I think again, it's like, could we crack the code to becoming like the world's greatest next event? Like, sure, like why not? But we're perfectly happy just kind of like staying in our lane and doing these sort of one-off things when we want.
And I think something like that, those events, right? If you go too over the top, yeah, that becomes your business model. But as you said, if you do 6, 7, 8 of them throughout the year, one every month to 6 weeks, that's really like a brand engagement, brand loyalty strategy, right? You get those 1,000 people to come, you know they friggin' love you guys. Like, they're not coming to this because they're like, oh, this kind of sounds cool. They're coming to this because they love Playmaker and everything that you guys do, which will then only entrench them further. I'm sure you can sell merch. As you said, you got sponsorships there. So again, the opportunity to make money is there, but I mean, just from the outside looking in, like with everything that you guys do, that's a way to shake hands with some of the people that, you know, they love so much. So that's just a way to just kind of keep them engaged with the brand further and further, which I think is pretty smart from your guys' standpoint. And the thing that always gets me and is interesting to me is kind of the partnerships, the ad sale side, right? We didn't get to talk about it, and we're really not going to, unfortunately, but your time at watchmojo.com. I love YouTube. I'm on it all the time. I watch YouTube more than regular TV. If football's not on or baseball's not on, and probably it's just on the other TV anyway, but like with that, like the opportunity to find the content, get the content, and then understand how to sell the ads against it, right? Like, I guess it's a very subjective answer, and I'm sure I know exactly what you're going to say, but what comes first, the partnership and the ad, or the content itself, right? I'm sure sometimes one or the other, but like, how do you kind of define, again, going back to being brand safe, making sure that you guys are being authentic to yourself, but a brand comes and says, hey, we have this new flavor of Mountain Dew. No one's going to want to drink it because it's fruitcake or something. But we'd really love you to make a show about it. And I don't know if this is a real example or not, because I think fruitcake's a real flavor. I hope it's not. But like, how do you guys like actually look at that and say, man, that's a lot of money. Yes, we can figure something out that's authentic to us, or no, this is ridiculous, or you make the Mountain Dew video, then Mountain Dew comes to you. Like, how does that kind of work in more situations than not, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We did a lot of that. You know, we did some of that at Watch Mojo, and then I was at like Maker Studios, right, which is kind of like the rise of the creator stuff. And we did a ton of like branded content there, and then like, you know, now we're doing that here. And I think the answer to that is like, you have to know like who your audience is. You have to like know who your brand is, and you have to like go target these brands and be like, hey, we think that this is relevant to you because XYZ, or we have this. It's like, hey, Raising Cane's. We have like 9 athletes in these college towns, and they would be great brand ambassadors. Or like, we go, hey, PointsBet, like, we're in these states, we're strong there, like, you guys should do something with us, and we're gonna bring talent in. We're gonna do this whole like month-long March Madness thing where we're following like Carlos Boozer and a Duke bet that they gave them, and just create a million pieces of content around it. So I think it's like knowing your audience and like knowing enough about who the advertiser is and what they want their audience, and then listening to them. And I mean, it's funny you mentioned like Mountain Dew. It's like they have like some new drink coming out, like Pitch Black, and it's like it's very interesting. Like at the Royal Rumble this weekend, they have like a Pitch Black match. You know, like, people can love it or hate it, but they're gonna like know. They're sure as hell gonna know like what Mountain Dew Pitch Black is at the end of it. And I think that's part of it too. Is like getting it in the conscious of people to give it a shot. And like, I think we've been pretty good at that, and like getting the product out there, but again, like doing it in a way where it makes people happy. So I think in the day, like, you need the content before you get the ad, and you need to build that audience. I mean, there's a lot of companies that have raised a lot of money, and they're like, okay, we're gonna like sell a bunch of ads, and we're gonna like figure out the content. We're gonna be like the solution to all this. I think you really need to like hone. You have to like build IP. You know, you have to build up personalities. You have to do all this before you can like really take a full-fledged run at the direct sales world. And like, we did that like really over the last year. We were getting everything in place. We have this IP. It's great. We're making money on Snap. We're making money elsewhere. But it was like, let's get all the stuff that we can go like now sell that is proven. And then that way, when me or anybody else or some more future hires are in the OMD's office, or any of the other major agencies, they can be like, hey, we have these like 10 things that you'd be perfect for. They're like, well, that's great. Maybe we'll do that later. But like, we have this product. How can you do it? And then we were like, well, this is at least 5% similar to what we've done here. We can prove it. Let's build us out something new. Let's build us out a new series. And then go from there. But I very much think you need like the content and the audience and all that before you get the rest. And like, the rest isn't easy, but it makes it a lot easier when you have a brand that people want to be around. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, it's I've started my own startups that have done okay and failed in some cases, and it's like some of it is timing, luck, all that good stuff. But you have to have like the content before you can reasonably think you can bring in revenue.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of agree with you there. I thought that was kind of going to be the answer anyway, because right, like, yeah, you can talk about the making a TV like a show or anything about particular brand X, but if no one cares about who you are or what you do, what the hell's the point, right? So I think that's always, that kind of makes sense from that standpoint. I was just curious more from the, did you talk about Raising Cane's prior and then Raising Cane's came to you? Or did you talk about fried chicken prior and you're kind of set up like the Popeyes, Raising Cane's, Chick-fil-A, whoever's interested, we're talking about fried chicken. Whoever wants it, come take it, right? So it's kind of that aspect that I'm really curious about too. So I guess, and then...
Yeah, I mean, that was like, that was just like we had athletes in these college towns, and it was like, who are the QSR things around it? It's like Raising Cane's in the markets, like Popeyes in these markets. Like we did a thing with like And Pizza, which is like it's good pizza.
You live in New Jersey. You live in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Make sure it's good pizza. Okay.
Yeah, it is. They're in New Jersey too. No, it is. It's the long.
I'm busting balls. I'm busting balls. We're good.
No, I know. It's the longer one or whatever, and they do well on college campuses. So that was a great example. We're like, hey, we have like 13 athletes in these key markets, so those are very regional. And I think like again with like the betting ones, we've done a lot of big betting ones lately. It's just like we have this audience that you want, that you're not hitting through your other channels, and then like we have them. They are betting. They want to bet, and like they really want to know about who you are and like the content you're bringing and all that.
Let's talk about that. That was the last thing I did want to talk about, was the sports betting partnerships. Familiar with you guys? I worked at Caesars for a little while, obviously, so ran into a couple people from Playmaker and what you guys have been up to, and I think it's really, really cool. I think it's pretty impressive. I guess from the gambling side of things, right? So gambling became legal back in 2018, slowly moved across the states. Coronavirus pops up. States need a way of finding, $150 million in tax revenue. Just kind of snap your fingers and figure it out. So now all the states are pretty much legalizing, right? We just had Ohio. We're going to have Massachusetts. Maryland wasn't too long ago. Kansas wasn't too long ago. How did you start, when did you start to realize, hey, there's a completely other revenue stream here, still just making content, but now an entire new industry within sports is coming up, and oh, by the way, this entire industry has pretty much more money than all the other industries combined. I'm obviously being facetious, but we kind of understand how casinos work. When did you guys really decide to say hey, let's take a crack at this and see what we can do, how we can do it, and then start to work with some of these companies? As you said, you handle a lot of these partnerships, so I'm kind of curious, what do you look for, what do they look for in you, and how are you guys able to make a successful partnership specifically in the betting space?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I originally invested in these guys, I was like, oh, there's something here for betting eventually. They're already doing a couple deals here and there, but it was around the normal sports content. And then I came on full time a few months later, and I think it was something I believe pretty strongly in that. I was this is coming. There's a lot of money coming, right? So that's a good reason. But I was I looked across the landscape, and I was I think you had a lot of down. I always call it down funnel betting content, right? You have the Action Networks, the VSiNs, the Roto Grinders. I've been a Roto Grinders subscriber since they first started. I'm a big DFS guy, for instance, right? I live that world, and spend all the time to actually become a net positive player, and it's not easy.
Congrats,
or
good
sexy
for you.
Or anything like that. Yeah, it took a long time, a lot of effort, But anyways, I think I looked at it, and it was there's a lot of good content down there, right? And I'm we're not going to try to pretend to be the experts, right? Even though I know what I'm doing, I can't write about it. I'm not any smarter than the 20 guys I'm reading that are actually giving me that info. So we're okay, that world's great, right? And then you had this mid funnel where, it was you call it Bill Simmons, call it Pat McAfee, call it Scott Van Pelt, where it's betting is built into that content really well, right? Mass audience, they know what they're getting. We're not going to go compete with them. How? We don't have that big of a personality yet. We have some that are growing that way. And then I looked at the top of funnel, which was for exactly the top of funnel, which was new bettors, mass, really the younger stuff. And I didn't see, there were some people doing good jobs. I think Barstool, again, why Penn bought Barstool, right? It's they were talking about betting in a really smart way to their audience, right? Very authentic. And then you had Bleacher Report. BR Betting was doing some cool stuff early on. Later, I don't know.
Yeah.
But early on, they were doing good stuff, right? And then whatever. But they were the one. And then I saw a lot of other people out there that were it was clear that there was a CEO that was do betting content, betting money is coming through. And a lot of it was just and again, it's what I like about BR Betting is they didn't focus on this part I'm going to talk about now. Is a lot of it was just let's put a couple people on camera that look good on camera, and they're going to talk about who to pick, right? And why they should pick this, and blah, 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 blah. And I always looked at that content and I was like, maybe I was a bit jaded or know how now it works. I'm like, listen, you're from the casino, you really know how it works. And it's like, yeah, it's bullshit. Like nobody knows, right? And like, even if you kind of did know, like let's say, and I'm gonna toot my own horn on this. I did finish in the money in the Circa Millions, right? But like, let's say I was
Congrats,
giving my
dude.
picks out, which was like, yeah, tough. I'm exhausted from it. It was like I was like, I gotta try to, the amount of content I consumed. But like, I think I picked up what like 63%, right? And I'm not gonna last that long the rest of my NFL career. But like, even if I was like putting out that content, it only matters if you're like the person that's following you is using like bankroll management. They're following you all 18 weeks because like even if you're doing a really good job on that, someone could like come upon you when you have a 1-4 week or like a
Yep.
4-11 like stretch, which happens in betting. You're just gonna like turn them off and like piss them off for life. So like I was like, you're creating this content. It's bringing people in. They're either gonna follow your falsehoods and they're gonna lose money, or they're gonna catch you at the wrong time, they're going to lose money, and they're never going to come back. So we said, Playmaker, we've done a really good job cultivating this audience. Let's do it a bit differently. We will never make a pick on Playmaker betting. We'll talk about picks, but we'll never make one. We'll never be like, this is who you should bet on. We never even like lean on anything like that either. Like let's focus on infotainment, right? Like talk about the stories, talk about like the fun moments around betting, like that sort of betting lifestyle culture. The idea that betting, don't get into betting to try to win money. Like you're probably not. And again, to get to that point where you are, it's like, there's 30 people that can help you, but like it's going to take you a long time to get there. It's more, view it as like a reason to watch a game you wanted it before, right? A reason to like argue with your friends and like pretend who knows the most, right? A reason to no different. I don't view it as any different than going I own a sports bar, so I like this analogy. Why do people go to a sports bar to watch a game? Well, it's fun. Like the social aspect, it's fun. You get to root with your teams, blah 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 blah. Meet friends, because you could always like go spend $80 drinking $12 beers and wings all day, and you could always say, well, like, hey, you could have sat at home and spent $5 on a 6-pack of beer and made your own food and saved $80. It's like you go there because of the value of it, and I think kind of similar to like if you place $5, $50, 100, whatever that number is for people, it adds like that value component to the game. Like it does get interesting at the end, especially if you're betting like spreads and totals and stuff. Like the game could be a total waste of time if you don't care about that, but then all of a sudden like you want free throws at the end to go in, or you don't want fouls at the end to go in, and it creates this like excitement and this sort of atmosphere. And I think that's like the sort of the community that we're trying to hit, right? And it's like so infotainment number one, like we want to make fun, entertaining content. We want to like create series. We want it to be like relatable. We have the education component as well. So education, we never give people bad advice, and we do tell them like bankroll management, things like that. We're actually working with the AGA coming up here on their campaign. Wow. Like they like the content we do, and they say, you guys, like, you're doing it for a younger audience, and it's very easy to go in like the other way, to be like, hey, here's a 20-team parlay to do, or like do this, do that, do that. So we do the educational component, and we do it in a way that's like people want to watch it. It's not just, it want to be me coming on being like, well, here's the thing about like steam chasing and bankroll management. And we also take the approach too to be like, hey, like, yeah, like betting on parlays and single game parlays, like it's a negative EV, but like it's fine if you do it because it's still fun. Like there is that fun component of like throwing a lottery ticket out there, right? And if you hit it, you're like the toast of the freaking community in the town. And if you miss it, whatever. So we don't like discourage people from doing it. It's more along the lines of being like, hey, like it's cool to do that, but like, isn't it better to make your $1,000, $100, whatever, like last longer, and to maybe to do that, maybe just like bet point spreads or overs or unders or like money lines, right? Where like the odds aren't as bad. And like a lot of people don't realize when you stack a parlay, like the odds get worse. And like single game parlay, it's like all correlated, and they get a lot worse, even though you think you're a genius to be like, oh, like, yeah, the Chiefs are going to win. If the Chiefs are going to win this weekend, then Pat Mahomes, oh yeah, he's going to throw for over 300 yards. And you're like, I'm getting one over on the books, but it's all built into that, right? And it's not, and it's not like, oh, how dumb can you be to not know that? It's like, it takes a while to sort of learn that. And then the last part is like storytelling. And then we do a lot of stuff like on the street. We go to events, like we're doing like film. We have our creators who are great, and they're asking people like betting questions or just questions about what they would do if like the Dolphins win the Super Bowl. And it's all fun. It all goes back to like sports betting can be fun. Do it within means. Like don't try to just throw the idea of like you're going to make a living out of it. Just throw it out the window, right? And if you want to do that, like go check out the unabated guys. Go check out this guy, right? It's going to be a lot drier, but go there. But for us, it's like if you want to be like the 95% that are just doing it to have fun, That's where we come in, and the brands, the betting brands like us too, because they're like, hey, we don't really jam bonuses down people's throats, like, but they're like, hey, you're bringing people in, and they're sticking around, and like, yeah, they're maybe not whales right away because they're 21, 25, 29 instead of like 45, 50, like CEO of a company, but they're sticking around, they're growing, and like they are showing like retention there and all that as well, and like that's our thing. We're just like, hey, like go enjoy it, like grow, like learn a new sport, bet a new game, but like you don't have to do it every day. You don't have to do it for every game. Like you're better off not doing it for every game on a football because you can't research all those. Maybe like pick 3 or 4 or 5, and do it that way. And we have some free to play games. We're getting into the affiliate space a little bit, but a lot of it's been sponsorship thus far. And again, I think it's just finding. I don't know. I talk a lot on that. And I'm pretty passionate about it. It's like just finding that sort of empty space that wasn't being covered before, and I think we've built a really good community there.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I really appreciate the way that you looked at it, right? Like, we're not going to be, I listen to VSiN pretty much every day. Like, there's a couple shows on there. I try never to miss.
I love it, but it's so dry for, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But I appreciate, a numbers game with Gil Alexander. Like, he's my favorite, and like what he says and the way he says it, I listen to it because it makes me think about betting in a different way, right? And like, it's kind of, what are you paying attention to and why are you paying attention to it? Not just, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to play, so that means the Chiefs are going to – it's not that boring, right? Like, so there's more nuance to it, which I appreciate, right? And because I've been in New Jersey for – the whole time that PASP has been revealed, I've been betting since 2019 at this point, right? I'm not furthest thing from a whale ever, but I like to bet on games. I like to do that research, right? And it's kind of, I appreciate how you looked at it from, again, we're not going to be the bottom of the funnel. We're not the Pat McAfees of the world, but we can just educate people on what's going on. And the thing that scares me the most, so again, been with Caesar. I was with Caesars with Profit Exchange, moving on to a new opportunity here in the next couple of weeks. And the amount of people that actually don't know what a point spread is, that are betting on it, is like alarmingly high. I was in Arizona for the launch of the Caesars Sportsbook at the state of Arizona. I was there for the night it launched. It was Tampa Bay, Dallas, but it was the good version of those teams a couple years ago, and it was an absolute crazy game. And I remember being there, talking to the people, boots on the ground, being like, yeah, I'm going to take Dallas. I think 9 points is just way too many. Like, that just makes no sense. And they're like, no, Tampa Bay is going to win by 50. I was like, I don't know. Have you watched the NFL? Like, that's not usually how it works. Like, that's a huge point spread in the NFL. They're like, no, it's cool. It's whatever. Do you? Like, we're all just here to have a good time, right? So at the end of the night, I run into one of those people again, and they're like, yeah, I lost my bet. I was like, oh, damn, I thought you took Dallas. He's like, yeah, I took Dallas plus 8.5. I was like, that means you won. Dallas, that means you won. And I had to explain to him what a point spread was, and like, he bet $150 on this game. And it's just like, dude, like, hey, you spend your money how you want. Like, it is what it is. I'm not here to tell you, I'm not putting my hand in your pocket, but at least know what you're betting, right? And I think like every new state that comes up, it's just the excitement, it's the energy that's around it, it's everyone on the internet is talking about it, and it's been talking about it. It's like, I want to do it, I can't wait, this is gonna be great. And yeah, to same game parlays, like, it's total bullshit. I put them in every once in a while, but we know it's like a bad bet to place. But I appreciate that you guys are looking at it from a content, from an overview, like, here's just some research, here's some information, pay attention to some of these things. I think that's like a really great way of going about it, because not too many people are doing that really across the entire industry.
Yeah, and we're able to like play nice, and like when I said it was boring, I didn't mean it like it's interesting.
No, I know what you meant.
Put, like,
yeah.
I think if you put Vs in front of someone that had never bet before, like, they'd be like,
that's boring.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Again, it's like, but like, I love Baseball Reference, but if I tried to like get someone into baseball, and my first thing was like, hey, go check out like the advanced stats on this, they'd be like, this, whatever.
You would be surprised what his WOBA was that year, man. His WOBA was off the charts, right?
Yeah, and it's like I like sports too that I don't want to like get analytically super into either. Like, I'm like, I don't care, man. I'll watch hoops. Like, I don't need to like know all this stuff. Yeah, and it's like we're able to like play really nice then with like the unabateds, right, and the VSiNs. We haven't really pushed people there yet because we're figuring out how to get them from like here to like here, and like we have like this Discord community that kind of like is there, and like how we filter it all down, like, I don't know, but we've worked with a few of them in the past. We worked with like Fade to Noise, right, and we worked with a few others that were kind of like developing those tools and all that. And like, yeah, for us, it's about kind of being straight with people. And it's also like not being, like you said, like there's people that don't know what a point spread is, but like betting on sports, especially in the casino, can be very intimidating. Like the first time you do it, it's like this big board, there's people waiting, like the counter people aren't always like the greatest, and you kind of just like get one in there. You don't actually know what you bet on. Same thing with the app. I mean, the apps, it's like, there's a lot there and it's a little bit easier, but nobody's really created like a great betting 101 video. We're still working on that. Like with the first time you place a sports bet, like we've done a few, but it's like, what is the holy grail of that you can like show to someone that's never done it? But like, we don't want to talk down to people either. And I think,
Yeah.
I think in the betting community, Twitter and stuff, you can get people that are like, oh, you put a parlay, you freaking idiot, like blah, blah, blah. Like everyone likes to pretend they're sharp or a pro. So they're all like talking down to everyone. And we're like, nah, like whatever. Like people can like bet what they want. Like I don't care. Like you don't know, like nobody knows, right? I mean, you talk about like professional bettors, like they don't know who's going to win. Like they're doing things like steam chasing, arbing, and all finding soft lines. Like that doesn't mean they like know who's going to win the game this weekend, right? They know how to attack the lines. They know how to like get ahead of it early. And like, yeah, there are guys there that have like good understandings of it. But like, if you're picking 60%, you're living on like a private island somewhere. So like, we don't want to talk down to people either, and we don't want to be like, oh, well, you're an idiot for placing a 17 leg parlay. We're like, hey, if that hits, like great. If not, like just don't chase it. We're like, if you hit 17 is ridiculous, but like, if you do an 8-leg parlay and you miss it by one, like that doesn't mean like you're going to hit it the next time.
Yeah.
And like that, I think that's always an important lesson. It's like, don't chase your losses. Don't be like, oh, I had a bad beat, I was totally right, like I'm going to win the next one. It's all like, again, I'm saying this more to the audience. It. Like,
no.
Like,
I appreciate it. You're good.
On this. Yeah, Caesars was built on this. People chasing and all
that. The funny thing about a bad beat, it's like a really good beat for the everybody else, right? Like I always find that very hilarious. Like a bad beat, like I've had the opposite of bad beats where there was zero reason I should have won, and all of a sudden I won, and like it's great. It's a great beat, but no one ever talks about those. We always like to be so negative, and it's very frustrating. I think specifically in this community, just because it's all based about money, and it's funny when. I mean, it is funny when people lose money, right? I don't know why, but it's just, and my friend lost that 8-leg parlay, right? What a drag. Like, that sucks. I'm gonna giggle a little bit at you, man. Like, I told you it wasn't going to hit. It's never going to hit. Oh, but it was the last one I put in. It's always the last one that kills you, man. It's always the last one that kills you. And I just appreciate it. And also,
it is, but when you lose the first one, you don't even think about it. I bet if you went back and looked at like parlay bet slips you had before, you probably hit like the middle 5.
Yeah.
But you missed like the first 2 and all that. And it's like, and I was gonna say like poker's like that too. Like I've been lucky enough to win a couple of World Series poker tournaments, and like I know a lot of poker players, and I hate listening about hands. But the only time people talk about hands, like the bad beats, right? Like, oh, like I can't believe this donk, 3-bet on this, and then you hit the jack. But it's like, to win a poker, especially a poker tournament, like you have to like suck out of people like left and right, but you never actually think, you're like, oh, that was skill. Like I knew it. Like, oh, I knew that. Yeah. Like
exactly.
I only had a 30% chance to hit the flush, and I bet 2 times more than what was optimal, but I knew that was coming. But like on the other end, you're like, if you're playing yourself, you're like, that guy's an idiot. Like I priced him out of the pot. Like what is he doing? And sports, it's funny. Like betting in general is like that, and that has to be like a human psychological thing that's just never gonna ever escape people.
No, I agree, man, and we're pretty much coming up here on time. So my last question to you is: if you're hitting 60%, where's your private island? Was your question? If I'm not mistaken, you hit 60% in Circa Millions this year. So David, I'm like, do I get an invite to the island? Like, is the island under construction? What are we doing there?
Yeah, I mean the thing there is like I'm almost too, I like know too much about how it all works. So it was like I would never. If you were placing bets, like it's easy to just do those 5 games, but maybe you're doing a few more, or just like you're not like increasing your unit size out of nowhere either. Listen, if I figure out a system to hit 60% NFL for the next 10 years, like sure, but
let me tell you, man, that's all I ask.
I know what's going to happen, and then you get in the playoffs, all of a sudden you're like not 60%. You're like, oh, betting's very humbling, right? And I understand that, like. Even on like the Circa thing, like as much as I'd love to be like I knew everything, like there was plenty of games there that was like lucky, and like, you have to get lucky at the end of the day. You can do all the research you want. There's still that, and that's the beauty about sports, the beauty about gambling. Like there is always going to be inherently luck involved on that, anyways. And I think it's also like not getting too big of a head. It's kind of like celebrate, and we always say this, like celebrate the wins and like commiserate the losses. And I think that's kind of part of it. And if you can like manage your bankroll, you can manage your expectations. And enjoy it. Like sports betting is like a phenomenal addition, right? I don't care like what various politicians say and stuff like that. And again, it takes discipline. It's not easy. And there's certainly people that are going to have gambling problems. You need to like get them help too. But I think like the people that don't have addiction or addicted tendencies that high, like if you get them doing it the right way and looking at it the right way and like realizing they're not going to win money at it, but like enjoy it when you do. I think then sports betting has a huge, bright future in America, even though it's not always there's going to be bad things that happen with it. But I mean, again, I own a bar. Like, you know, I mean, I'm fine serving alcohol.
Beer?
We don't overserve people, but I understand that, like, you know, like alcohol can lead to really awful things in some people, but it's all about like approaching things like responsibly. And I think, yeah, that's the last thing I'll mention on like betting is I think I'm very positive on the future of it. There will be hiccups, there will be overregulation, there'll be underregulation, but I think if you can like kind of keep the long view, I think it's exciting for everyone, the players, the companies that, you know, you've worked with or are going to be working with in the future. And then, yeah, you know, the states that you know, think that it's going to solve all their financial problems.
Yeah, we'll see about
you know.
that one. Yeah, it's really easy to misplace $100 million. I'll be honest. If I've ever looked at a government contract, which I haven't, pretty confident it's very easy to misplace that money. But no, man, this was awesome. Yeah. I sincerely appreciate it. I appreciate your passion. I wish I knew you were so incredible at gambling. I would have brought that part of the conversation up a little earlier so we could have dove a little deeper into that. But I think we did a great job and really just appreciate it. You know, you talking about the sales, the aspects, all these different shades of revenue, how you're looking at it, how you're kind of viewing it from not afar, but from a different lens, right, than the actual content creators themselves. I think that's a really important piece of all this. And then, again, the sports betting piece that just came up recently over here the last couple of years. I mean, it's only opportunity to grow and grow and grow, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon, especially with more and more states legalizing. We have Massachusetts coming up here in the next couple months, which, don't know if you heard, it's kind of an important state. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that. But David, this has been absolutely fantastic. David Woodley, President and CRO of Playmaker. Appreciate your time today. Appreciate the audience's. Time's the only thing we don't get more of, so thank you very much for all yours. But other than that, man, hope you have a great rest of your night. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was great. I really appreciate having me on. Let me ramble on for an hour.
Dude, let's do it again.
So I'll let you back to your life too. Yeah.
Oh, please. This is my favorite thing I get to do, man. So you gave me this hour and change, and I appreciate it. We'll get you back on again. Maybe if there's something in our future together, but you never know. Crazier things have happened, but awesome. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Yeah. Have a great night.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Bye, everybody.
Yep.